went to practice, and I was like, all right, guys, I went into a very business-like. I'm like, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to set up these goals, and we're going to play X amount of shows, and we're going to play these festivals, and we're going to do all this stuff.
Where the hell did that come from?
And they're like, dude, we just like jam in the garage. I'm like, no, fuck that. If we're going to do it, then we're going to do it.
Great experiences build great leaders. Great leaders build great teams. This is Building Great Sales Teams.
So it's like, in theory, it's like, oh yeah, everybody lives this high quality of life. That's fantastic.
Somebody's got to do the work.
Somebody's got to do the work, you know? Awesome. And we're not all equal.
Nope. Like, just get over it. It's just reality. Yeah.
LeBron James balls out way harder than I ever could, you know?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it sounds like we can go on and on, but yeah, this whole idea of like, I'm valuable because I am alive and I breathe air. No, you're not. You're not valuable until you put that value to practice, you know?
Yeah. To somebody, hopefully you are, you know? If you're not, I don't feel, dude, I was 6.5 years ago, I was fucking homeless walking through the desert talking to cactuses in the fucking psychosis. Okay. I was, you know, if I would have died, it would not have been tragic. Like, it would have been like, oh, a junkie died. Like, sorry for his family, but if I died, it wouldn't have been like, oh, it's so sad. It's like, no, he fucking was jamming needles in his arm. Like, and he died. That's what happens. Like, would have been fault, would have been my consequences. It wouldn't have been tragic.
So that's how we're going to start the podcast. All right, guys. I got Cody Booth with me here. He's a solar extraordinaire. He's the founder of SoCal Energy Solutions. He's been in the solar business for about 8 years now, setting appointments door to door, running a program for an EPC installer, and then he's also built multinational call centers. He's based out of Simpsonville, South Carolina, but just recently moved from California. He's a husband, a father of 4, and Cody, we met at Flying Friday just like a week ago. And after having a conversation with you for about 3 minutes, I was like, I've got to get this guy on the podcast. Like, he actually knows what he's talking about in the solar game. So thank you for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure meeting you last week. And I'm a little new to the podcast thing. Bennett Maxwell, our mutual friend, has kind of been like, he's been telling me for a while now, you got to start doing some podcasts. And I've been a little bit adverse to it, but I think this third one this week, and it's kind of fun. It's cool to meet different people and have conversations with people all over. So
it's like a deeper dive. You know, we met at Apex, and you get to meet everybody for 3 to 5 minutes, but you don't really get to have that connection and stuff. So, you know, the first thing podcasting does that's great is you get you expand your network and you have deeper relationships, right? Second thing is I get free consulting. You know, you're a lot further in the solar game than I am, so I'm going to use you and abuse you for that. And then,
please do.
And then if you want clients, the easiest way to have a conversations with them and say, hey, jump on my podcast, spread your message. You know what I'm saying? And here's what you do. Here's what I do. And who knows, it could end up becoming a client. So and then of course you're building authority. You know, my podcast is called Building Great Sales Teams. I do sales consulting, you know what I mean? So it goes hand in hand. All right, so we heard a little bit about your story in the beginning there. So where did this all start? Did you grow up in California?
Yeah, I grew up in Syracuse, outside of Syracuse, New York, in a small 3,000 person town called Sherrill, New York, small city in New York State. So pretty normal life, good family, you know, good values. You know, I was just, I played sports as a kid, pretty all-American, you know, pretty all-American life. And I went to State University in New York at New Paltz, SUNY New Paltz. And, you know, education was easy for me, but it wasn't, it was almost like, it didn't make sense to me. Right. I remember getting to college and just being like, you know, you didn't have to go to class anymore. Right. And so a game that, you know, I don't know if it was a conscious game that I played, but it was like, how few of classes can I go to and still pass? Right. And when I realized that for me, you know, this is my own opinion. The first time I was like, you know what, education is complete. complete bullshit is when I went to a class and laid out the curriculum and said, there was like 5 things you got judged on, right, for your grade. And it was like, a midterm, a final, a paper, a presentation, something else. And I did well on all that shit, right? I did fine. And then he failed me. And I was like, why the fuck did you fail me? Because you only showed up for 5 classes. I was like, you said you're grading on this material. If I aced it, it's not my problem.
Right.
And they're like, that's not how it works. And I was like, I want to live in a results-based world, and there's things that I might have to work 60 hours a week on that you only have to work 10 hours a week on to get the same results.
Right.
And so that's what I love about, the solar world, the entrepreneurial world is like, we make our own rules, and you reap what you sow.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I got into solar in California, bounced around. I was in truth be told, I was in a 12-step meeting about 8 years ago. And a guy was like, hey, we're looking for people to be appointment setters for solar. And at the time I was like, solar's not real. Like, you know what I mean?
That's what them hooky people do. Solar.
Yeah. I was like, it's not real. But they were paying $15 an hour plus like a small commission. I was like 50, like it blew my mind, right? Coming from small, I grew up in the Rust Belt area. If you got a job paying $15 an hour, like you were doing something,
And that's like minimum wage in California now.
Yes. Like, In-N-Out starts people like $23 an hour now. It's like insane.
Yeah.
And so I took the job because I didn't really have anything else to do. Did it for a little while. And again, it frustrated me because I would go out and get, 3, 4, 5 appointments in a day. And I'm like, these people are getting paid. These people are going out and getting 0 or 1 or getting paid the same as me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it doesn't make sense. And so I met up with some guys. I was out knocking one day. I was a heavy smoker at the time. It's been about 5 years without a cigarette now, but I was smoking one of my many cigarettes on the street, having, it's really good door-to-door etiquette at the time. And just smelled like an ashtray.
Yeah.
Newport 100s. And a guy came along and was like, hey, what are you selling? Blah, blah, blah. He was doing solar. I mean, it took him all like 3 minutes to recruit me. He was like, listen, you can go out with us commission only, and this is what you can make. And at the time it wasn't, it was a very good deal for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the time I was just like, I had no kids at the time. I had, minimal overhead, and I just kind of sent it from there. And I've never had a hourly job or, anything since, I've been in solar.
That's awesome, man. So I read a few of your profiles, your social media profiles and stuff like that. Your Instagram actually says that you're a Syracuse sports enthusiast. So I looked up colleges and stuff, and I was like, well, shoot, there's Syracuse in California, there's Syracuse in New York. So I wasn't sure. I was like, which one did he go to? And then I forgot what he said exactly, but you're obviously a big fan of Jerry Garcia from Grateful Dead.
Of course.
Yeah. So I came across those two things, and I was like, oh, cool. I always like to insert that, fun facts about the guests and stuff like that, and let it be about more than just sales or solar or, business, whatever the case is. What got you into music?
My parents were big into music growing up, so it was kind of always around. And there's not, where I grew up, there's not a ton to do. It's like, it's very rural, it's very country. I grew up in a family that, my dad bow hunted, a lot of fishing. Wintertime would come, go ice fishing, snowmobiling, stuff like that. But there's always music around. And so I grew up, with a lot of music. I played music for a little while. I got to travel, and I'm not a very good musician. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of predated my, solar world and stuff like that. So I first tried to get clean and sober. I've been clean and sober a little over 6 years now.
Congrats.
Thank you. And so I first tried to get clean and sober back in 2010. I overdosed and I was in a coma. It was a whole, it was wild. I was 21 years old. Mm-hmm. And they don't really know why. I wasn't supposed to live, basically, and I did. And then after that, I took a crappy job locally, moved back in with my parents. And, I was playing with music with a buddy one night that I went to high school with, who's this guy who's just a savant, just a backwoods, like grew up in a house literally with a dirt floor. Mm-hmm. But this dude I went to high school was just a savant on guitar, just incredible. We were playing for fun on my back deck at my parents' house, and we wrote a song that night just for the hell of it. And he was like, "Cool, we got a gig next week, and it's like our 4th gig, and our guitar player just went to rehab." Ironically, happens a lot in upstate New York, and happens a lot in music,
Yeah.
And so he's like, "You're gonna play," and I was like, "Dude, I don't know how to play." He's like, "Well, you just wrote a song, you can play." And so I didn't really know what I was doing. I'm not like classically taught. Mm-hmm. But I went into it like like any good addict would. And I'm like, went to practice, and I was like, all right, guys, I went into it very business-like. I'm like, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to set up these goals, and we're going to play X amount of shows. And we're going to play these festivals, and we're going to do all this stuff.
Where the hell did that come from?
And they're like, dude, we just like jam in the garage. I'm like, no, fuck that. If we're going to do it, then we're going to do it. And so it was like this wild whirlwind. And like, what was cool is like, I was just, listen, we're good self-promoters, right? Mm-hmm. Like, go out and get people to buy tickets. I could go out and get on bills, and, and that far exceeded my ability to play music, but it didn't matter. And so I got to play with a lot of bands that I admire. I got to play some cool festivals, and that was a fun chapter. And then I moved out west.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's like the entrepreneur, and you just had to get out. You know what I mean? That's the savant piece for you, right?
Yeah, I had to get that. I didn't know I was an entrepreneur at the time. Yeah. You know what I mean? But
you're just the organized guy.
Yeah, and so people, and since then, I don't think those guys will ever listen. The guys I played with are great musicians, mm-hmm. but they haven't done shit.
Right.
I mean, they don't have that. I don't think I think it's something that's internal. I don't think like I went out and like earned this mindset, necessarily. I think part of it I was born with and instilled by my parents, but they don't have that drive to go out and, just really fucking get it.
Right.
Like, like I had. So sometimes friends from back home be like, "Oh, you play music? You still playing music? You're going to play music again?" I'm like, "No, I mean, I play little songs with my kids." And like, "Well, you should," I'm like, "Listen, it was a time in my life. It was fun. I accomplished more than I wanted to. Yeah. It's not where my mind's at."
100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Early on, I had things like that I just kind of grew out of. You know what I'm saying? So whenever you got into door-to-door, obviously you came up in the ranks over there. Did you end up managing door-to-door sales teams? Like, what was that journey from, entry-level setter to founding your own company now?
So I worked with a Solcius dealer mm-hmm. in the early days of Solcius. This has been like 2014. And that was good. Kept doing that for a while. I was like, holy shit, this is money like I haven't imagined before. Right. It's one of those things for me. It was like, I didn't have a lot. I never made money like that. I didn't have like much overhead. I didn't have kids. I didn't have a wife. Mm-hmm. So this is going to sound very not Apex. The game for me became, how can I make a lot of money and work as little as possible?
That is very Apex, by the way. That's exactly what, as you go through entourage, entrepreneur, and executives, that's basically what they're teaching you on the way up. You know what I'm saying?
I guess what I mean is I just wanted to be lazy and do no work. I didn't have a team at the time. I was just a door knocker. I'm like, I want to see if I limit myself to like 3 hours a week knocking, can I go out and get 2 deals? Mm-hmm. And like a lot of times I could. Yeah. So like people ask like, were you a top producer? Fuck no, I wasn't. I did well, but I wasn't like, taking over the world.
Yeah, you figured out the game and you executed the game.
Yeah. And so then I took a little sabbatical, went on my last, we'll call it my last bender, for about 9 months, and fell off the wagon. And then I came back, and right before I I fell off the wagon. I got married to my wife, and she's also in recovery. She just celebrated 9 years.
I was going to say, that's the first thing you put her through.
Yeah. As soon as we got engaged, I went out, and she, most people had never seen me like that. So we were estranged for a little bit. We got back together. I ended up in a treatment center in Georgia, and then I ended up in a halfway house in Costa Mesa, California. We reconnected, and she was managing a spa in Desert Hot Springs, California. She's a massage therapist, and we got back together. She already had 2 kids from previous. Within like 3 months of me getting sober, we found out she was pregnant. So little smart thing to do at that time was have a baby. But it was honestly probably the best thing for me, because it was like, okay, it's time to really, get my shit together.
Right.
And, at that time I was like, okay, I was actually going to take a job at a gym selling gym memberships. And she was like, why? When you were doing solar before, you relapsed, go back to solar and fucking make some money. You're good at it. And, so she wouldn't, she had a car at the time. I didn't have a car, even though we were married. She's like, I'm not going to let you take a car to go work at the fucking gym. And like, we didn't have anything at the time. I mean, we were on food stamps, like, we were living that literally, like, our backyard was the projects, and it was like the trap. There was like a path going through the yard, bullet holes in the house. I mean, it wasn't like we really had the luxury to be like, no, we can't take money. It was like, there was times going to the food bank at that time period. It wasn't, but, I gave her credit, because she was like, no, that's, even though we were broke, she was like, that's below you. Like, don't. Yeah, nothing against people that work at gyms, but she had seen me excel at this other thing. Like, why go take a comfortable desk job?
And it's not like you had a passion for gyms or working out. You know what I mean? So it's not like you were. No, it was not. I'm just saying you weren't leaving money for passion. You know what I'm saying?
No.
So.
No, not at all. Not at all. And no, it wasn't like, oh, I love the gym. It was like, oh, I knew guys that worked there, and they're like, here, dude, here's a job.
Yeah.
And so I got back into solar. I worked for another guy's company for about a year, and it just wasn't really. I was building little teams of them, but like all the expenses were on me, and he took half the money. And I wasn't trying to be an unreasonable, like, I was like, wait it out, wait your turn. But I'm like, dude, if I'm paying for setters, I'm paying for their hotel rooms, I'm paying for their dinners, I'm fronting them, draws. You got to come off with a little bit more than half, while you're sitting at your house enjoying your time. Like, I'm all about everybody making their money, don't get me wrong.
But 50-50 is steep when you're
50-50 steep.
When you're not covering expenses. Like the way my company's set up right now is 65% goes to the sales force and 35% goes to the company. And we're covering hotel. When we travel, we don't travel that much, but that was more of that summer sales model, I'm sure. But we're 65-35 and we're covering expenses,
Yeah. We were
That's
50.
Harsh.
Yeah, we were 50-50. I was covering expenses, and it was to the point where it's like, all the little stuff, I'm doing my own proposals. I'm doing all my project management. I'm doing all my own deal follow-up.
Oh, wow.
So I'm doing all the training for the reps. What am I?
Yeah. What are you paying 50% for?
I'll pay somebody 95%, if the value's it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If the trade-off is there. But if the trade-off's not there, then I can't do it. So, I jumped into launching our own business in, I think it was 2017, just SolarCal Energy Solutions. We built a door-to-door model with the thought in mind of, I'm not a guy that loves knocking doors. So we built the model to first, the idea was, how can we build a model where we get off the doors, right? We're just taking closes, right? And then it was, well, how can we train guys up so that they can take closes and we can kind of make this little assembly line? So what we did, what it molded into or morphed into was there's an opener. They find somebody who's moderately interested. They drop a pin in our app, and then what we call as an SP1 comes over, and they take a live transfer, and they take it from there, and they get the bill and the credit right on the door, and then they set the close. It's like a little assembly line model.
So it's a live transfer in person.
Live transfer in person.
And then if it has to be an appointment, then they just set the appointment and move on. But
Yep.
They try to get them there in person right then and there.
They get them right then and there in person every time. So if the opener can't hold it until the setter gets there, which we call an SP1, which is really to me the close, then it's just, hey, follow up.
Yeah.
But there's guys that are designated, just basically they just roam around the neighborhood taking these transfers. And what it does, what we found is it makes it so that it's makes the information palatable, right? Like I can teach somebody, give me a half hour with any random person with a decent IQ,
Walking too dumb.
Yeah. And give them a script on how to send a transfer. Right. That person does the middle part, which is a strong part. Give me somebody with sales experience, not necessarily solar. 2 days with them, they'll be pulling bills and running credits,
Okay.
In California with solar, even with we have closers that no solar experience, give them 2-3 days of real training, and they're closing leads. It helps in California when you're cutting somebody's bill by 40%.
I wasn't going to say it, but I was thinking it.
Yeah.
It probably takes me a solid 5 days to train a closer. And I was thinking like, okay, why does it take me 5 and it's only 2 or 3 there? And I'm like, well, it's stupid not to get solar in California at this point,
Yeah. It's like, hey, dumbass, you're paying 55 cents a kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
Like,
what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, what's wrong with you? And so, once we realized that, hey, it doesn't, once we changed our mindset on like kind of the idea of who we had to recruit and packaged it like that, it allowed us, within
Scale.
a month within a month or two, we were able to not have to be the ones running the credit, running or taking the closes. And then you can start to think about other stuff, and that business still goes on. And I don't really have to do, I'm to the point now where I'm super hands off with it. One of our openers from years ago worked his way up, and he basically gets like about 90% of that. Again, I was talking earlier, like I'll take 10% of something if it's virtually passive. He's earned it. That's what he's passionate about right now. And, I've always told people like, there's no glass, if you work with me, there's no glass ceiling. And I mean that. And, we used to set it out at, the nice thing about that model is here's your path to leveling up.
Right. Opportunity structure.
Start off as this, start off here, start off there. Now we've got literally guys that, hey, they own it. It's their name on the office now. Yeah. And they didn't own it. It's another guy that he didn't come in with a bunch of money. He came in pretty much out of the gutter. Yeah. And so that's kind of solar up until the pandemic hit for me.
And when you say their name is on the office, do you mean like when they go out to the field, their name's on the shirt too? Or it's more they own their marketing organization, but they're still representing your brand? Yeah,
they represent their own brand.
Gotcha. Very cool. Yeah. So like a sub-dealer type model on the sales side. Yeah. Do y'all do any of the EPC? I mean, you said you managed an EPC program in the past. Yeah. Do y'all do any of the install side? Or is that...
I don't. We've got a partner up in the Bay Area, Complete Solar, who's been really, really good to us for a long time.
Nice.
I've used other EPCs. I ran a dealer program for an EPC that I don't think I can legally name because they owe a bunch of people money, and every time I say shit about it, I get a cease and desist. And but Complete Solar has been fantastic. And what I like about our relationship with them is they make me not want to install because they make my life easy, and they're not perfect. But what I've realized is nobody fucking is.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect, but what they do well is they communicate well with us. They're honest, and when they fuck up, they admit it.
Mm-hmm.
And they always, and in 6 years, they've never missed a payment. So
that's beautiful.
if you got the piece, and it sounds so small, but everybody in the sales world has been fucked over at one point.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so, I've had people say, oh, I put in jobs with them and it took 90 days or it did this and that. It's like,
it's part of it.
It's going to happen, the fastest, the sexiest, the cheapest. It's not, I'm here for longevity, right? Or for as long as I decide, so if I've got a partner I can count on, and they just took on, they just received large backing from Carlyle Group, which is huge. They're making the right move. So I want to be aligned with that, so sexier, faster, better tech. Sure. Yeah. But I know they're going to have my back.
Yeah. And that's the most important thing when the shit hits the fan, that not only are they transparent, but, and that's the thing, if you're transparent, then I'll hook arms with you and we'll get through this thing together kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're dealing with in our business too. We're looking at 90 to 100 day installs in a market that should be installing in 3 or 4 weeks if you're linear, and so it's not completely the EPC, or it's not completely the software company that we're passing everything through. It is it's becoming a market issue. And so I'm at the point now where we're making the decision, okay, look, we're small, we can still pivot, you know what I mean? And so we're going to pivot direct to installer, and then we're probably within 6 months, I want to have installed our first solar install, you know what I mean? From A to Z, from lead to PTO, and that's because I we want to become a brand locally, to where in Corpus Christi, if the word solar is mentioned, it's Argenta Solar, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Versus, a lot of dealers and companies that I talk to, they're all about going nationwide and being able to sell everywhere and stuff. And I'm like, man, I could build a $10 million solar business in Corpus Christi alone. And then I can do the same thing in San Antonio and in Houston, and I can drive to each one and hang out with my people and train and build them up and lead them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so that's kind of the strategy we're going to pivot to, because the sub, we don't feel like it's going to work for us long term. Not if we want to build a real name in the industry in South Texas, at least. Kind of a deeper versus wide kind of strategy.
It definitely makes it. It definitely makes it harder to build that brand, because things are out of your control. Mm-hmm. So, that's one of the reasons we've gone down that, should we install, should we not? Yeah. And it's honestly where I'm at right now is like, we could RMO and we could be installing, we've got people on our project management team that have worked at EPCs before, run install management. So we're set up if we needed to pivot. Honestly, the reason that we haven't is most of our business in California, and then we're starting to do a fair amount of volume in the DFW area. Mm-hmm. In California, the sales margin is so large. Yeah. And the cost of doing business, if you're a construction company, is so large.
That makes sense.
Yeah. That it's like you can have, a $2 a watt margin on the sales side. Mm-hmm. On the install side, you're praying that you're 20 cents.
Yeah, exactly. No, I've seen that. I've seen that too, because I started out saying, no, I want to do the whole thing. And I partnered with a guy on an EPC, and it did not go well. And then I looked at the margins, and I was like, why am I even jacking with the EPC piece? Why would I go after, 40 cents a watt? You know what I'm saying? When the, us as a whole, we're getting, over $1 a watt, right? And that's kind of where it's at in Texas, right? And so, and then of course you go through the business, and, there's two incredibly important things to me right now: the customer service experience and then the sales rep experience. Those two things are top of mind for me right now. So if I'm going to scale, and I've scaled, AT&T sales before, right? I had 100 plus salespeople, 10 offices nationwide, all that. And that made sense because all I had to do was worry about sales. So if you want to scale, then yes, you need an EPC partner, and you need to be able to scale fast. You don't want to have to be setting up new licenses in each state, in each market, you know what I mean? And having to build up an install team is completely different than building up a sales team. Like you said, you can train a salesperson in 2 or 3 days at an entry level. And you just can't do that on the construction side, nor would you maybe have the licensing or the master license to be able to do it. So I know that it's going to slow us down in terms of volume, but I'm okay with that. And as long as you're okay with that going into it, then like you said, you can work on that brand a lot better in terms of the customer service experience and the sales rep experience,
Yeah, it's all about having the right expectations. I know people have gotten into the install side and they're like, oh, we're gonna get into the install side and we're gonna control the process and it's gonna be this and I'm like,
yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. Sounds cool. Let me know how it goes.
Yeah, that's why I know that, it'll be a long time before we're doing 100% of our installs, maybe a year or two, honestly.
That's smart. That's if and when we do it, it'll be, hey, let's get a crew. Like one. Yeah. And go from there.
And let's not fuck up like 10 times in a row. And then maybe we'll get another crew.
Yeah. I mean? Because those truck rolls add up, And here's the thing in California too, which is why we ran away from it. It's like you've got certain areas where they do, you got to do a rough inspection. So you're sending out a crew, you put the racking in, you got to inspect it. You put the panels on, you got to inspect it. And there's a lot of 100 amp panels. So what we've seen in DFW is a lot of the houses out there have 200 amp mains already, so we're doing a lot of panel upgrades, and it's just, I'm like, at the red line that some of these companies are at right now in California is fascinating to me because I'm looking at the cost of goods and where they're running. I'm like, you can't surviving.
Yeah, they're just surviving.
If you fuck up and have to send an extra truck roll, you're negative.
But I don't want to be there. They pigeonholed themselves because they didn't do sales. They just focused on the install, and I get that. Do what you're good at. But then it gave all the power to the sales orgs, and so they were just kept pushing. And I don't know if, and we have no plans to install for anybody else but our own customers, right? And I think that's going to be huge for us because a lot of installers do play that game where they're literally bidding against their own client, especially when you look at the local market and stuff. So that's one thing that we're going to focus on. But getting back to to your side of things. What would you say y'all's client acquisition strategy is now? Are you more in the back office business, or obviously you got guys on the doors in California, but like you said, you're venturing into other lead acquisition strategies?
So once the pandemic hit, we started doing a lot of call center type stuff, virtual call center in Mexico. We've had people in Colombia. We've got people on our staff from the Philippines. And really, took our similar to our door model and just did it on the phones. And it's been, we just, there's a lot of things I'm bad at. We fucking kick ass at that. And so it's been our business to really blow up. And, we've built a cool machine, and it's been fun. And it's not, the last thing I was doing before, things started to shut down is I had just moved from LA to South Orange County in California. And I was traveling to Escondido, and we were opening up a San Diego office, and we're going to get another door-to-door office going. And then the pandemic hit, and, California, it really hit there because you couldn't do shit.
Yeah, shut the state down for like a year and a half.
Yeah. And so it was like that hit. It was just like, I just moved to Orange County, which is not cheap. Wife just had her fourth kid. It's like, 5 months old when the pandemic hit. And it was like, so it was, that was a little bit of a, oh shit. But it was fun too. Cause it really, for the first time, in a couple of years since we'd really started our business, I got to sit back and be like, I don't have an office to go to today. Right. I don't have anything to really think about. What do I want to think about?
You got to create.
Yeah. And so I got to create. And even though it was like, oh shit, it's tight a little bit money wise right now, it was so freeing in other ways, because it was like, I get to just think and create. And what came out of that was awesome. I reconnected with an old knocking buddy of mine, who's my partner now, Manny Alonso. He's a fucking genius, creative mind. He'll be at Apex. You'll see him at Flying Friday, this coming one.
Nice.
And that man is like, when it comes to creativity and different ways to make money and make things more efficient, I've never, I haven't met anyone quite on his level. And, we hadn't really been working together much, and we started working together again over the pandemic. And like every time we've done anything together, it's fucking crushed.
Yeah.
We were talking about that. We're like, dude, when we did the door-to-door stuff together and we went separate ways, it was like, dude, that was when it crushed the most. And when we built really a lot of that model on the doors that I talked about earlier was, a lot of his theories and his implementation. And so we started working together on the call center stuff, and we're doing great. It's been not everything, half the shit you beta test doesn't work, but right. You get to, it is, you get to a point where you're like, let's try this because
there's nothing else to do.
So that was the phase. That was the kind of the phase we're in for a little while. Now we're like, well, I don't look like, I like building sales teams, and we built a badass sales team. But we're at the point where we sell 150, 200 jobs a month. And that's, to some people, that's a ton. To some people, they're like, but we're not legacy.
To most, that's a ton.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to tell you right now, I've been in solar a little over a year now. I've met a lot of people in solar. To most, that is a ton.
And to us, it was like unfathomable at first. Like the first time we hit 100, it was like, because we've been doing it for a while. It was like, holy shit.
Especially when you look at the depth of your organization, what's your actual stateside head count, what's your overseas head count, or out of country head count. I imagine when you look at that, it's pretty impressive. But that's and so is that a completely virtual model, or do y'all do anything in home?
So here's what's cool about it is the closers go in person. So everything up until the close is in person.
Yeah.
And so all of our closers that are in California, I've never met any of them for the most part. There's some guys that have done solar with me for the last, since day one that, we still work together.
But you've met them virtually or whatever, over Zoom calls and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what's really, cool about it. So we've got to the point where we're like, I don't really want to manage or build out project management for any more jobs than we're at, but we have the capacity to do more. And that's where, got some friends. I've got a buddy whose organization does like a ridiculous amount, like literally like 900 installs last month on the sales side.
Nice.
Some of his guys have run our leads, because once it gets to the closer's job, they just show up, credit pass, electric bill, they're there to shut it down. And so some of his guys filled in last year, and, when we were still building up closers, and he's been like, when are you going to do this for us? When are you going to do this? Let me give you money. I'm like, no, I'm going to build out my own. He's like, you don't want to build out your own. Like you don't want to build it any bigger. Like we've got money and reps, like come build it out for us.
And then charge them a ridiculous consulting fee, or obviously bottom line profit, whatever the case is. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're just now doing that. We just started doing that, and that's exciting for me, because it's something new, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's in my wheelhouse, but it's kind of like when you go to the gym and you use different muscles, and you're like, oh shit, that hurt a little.
Yeah, absolutely. But you feel good,
Yeah, you feel good. And so that's what we're doing now. And we've got a couple other guys that we're going to be doing it with. One guy, I'm excited to start with him. He's new to solar. he's had other businesses, flipped them. He's done, the alarm stuff back in the day, and we're basically going to help him build a business from scratch. And that one is fun. I mean, obviously you get paid a much bigger consulting fee to build from scratch, but even that, if I look at like what I'm going to do, like in money wise, I'm going to be underpaid, even though it's
absolutely,
but it's going to be fun. And when it's done, it's going to be like, cause I know I'm going to win.
Yeah.
Like we're going to win,
yeah.
But it's going to be a lot of work. And at times I'll be like, fuck, this was a stupid idea, but one of the benefits of solar too, like is your margin for error is
pretty big,
big, but the idea of, I know that we'll get to our goal of the finished product of, hey, you have this business that essentially runs by itself. Cause we did it, I know how to do it. And this guy's got the capability. So that's a project that I'm excited about.
Well, and you should be, cause it's not just, unfortunately too many people's advice is, okay, look at what you make in your business. And if you're going to go do consulting or something like that, make sure that you replace that income, but when I do consulting, I don't look at just the dollar amount I get, because most of the companies that I would love to consult for can't afford the dollar amount that I should be getting, right? Let's put that in a big quote, right?
Yeah.
And so I may only make like $5,000 on a consulting job, and it may take me, like for that job, it's 7 hours, right? And I can go and make, $10,000 in my business or whatever, but if you're consulting, the business truly is running itself for the most part. You're stepping in as a visionary, you're putting things in place, you're expanding it, but you should be able to do stuff like that. But what you get out of it means so much more than the money. You know what I mean? And taking someone's sales program and auditing it and rebuilding it, and then them getting these amazing results from it. And then you're providing them with long-term value that they're going to look back at that $5,000, they're going to look back at that $25,000, whatever the amount is, and they'll be like, that was nothing for what he was able to do or she was able to do for my business. And then now you've got a lifelong business relationship, maybe that turns into a friendship, but those relationships, you know what I mean? The ROI on them is just ridiculous, and you never know what could happen. Like government could take over solar tomorrow and completely governmentize it and fuck it up. And we're out of business, but we're not, you know what I'm saying? Because we know how to build a business, and we've done it for other people, and there's going to be offers out the door. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's partnerships or jobs, which I don't think either of us would probably take, but partnerships.
Partnerships. Job would be tough, but I mean, it's one of those things where it doesn't matter if it's solar, it doesn't matter if it's real estate, alarms, mortgages, you can apply the same principles, right? That's to me, like when somebody's like, I'm a sales pro, there's a difference between really knowing your industry and becoming successful at it and being a sales pro, and neither one is right or wrong, but to me, a sales pro, it doesn't matter what you're selling.
Right.
It's all, if you truly understand psychology and, you gotta, for me, it's like, okay, what problem am I solving? And is it, am I being ethical? Where's my, what are my intentions? Are my intentions to go sell everybody at $7 a watt? And so I can tell everybody how much money I made on that one deal.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with making a healthy commission, right? Especially in California. But what are my goals? Are my goals to really help people? Are my goals just 100% self-serving?
Right.
And so if you can do that, then because most people, in my opinion, that are in sales aren't actually sales pros. Even people that put up numbers. Like if you can't tell me why. You can learn talking tracks all day and you can learn tie downs. If you can't tell me the psychology behind why that works, and you're not really a sales pro, you're just a puppet that's a really good actor.
Right. Absolutely.
That's just my, opinion on that, which everybody wants to know my opinion. So
yeah, absolutely. That's why you're on the podcast, man. No, I believe in that 100%. I would always tell my guys, one, you got to believe in this product, right? When we were selling AT&T Uverse, you had to believe in the product. DirecTV, you know, a Vivint, you know, whatever we were selling, you have to believe the product you're selling is the best out there right now. Now, those markets were so volatile, you know what I mean? We did have to move products because all of a sudden, you know, this security product was better than this security product because you could put 5 cameras on it and not 2, you know? So it was like we had to move with the market, and we truly were sales pros because once we built out the initial model, which was on cable, I realized what I had. I was like, oh, I can insert any product in here. Yeah, as long as it's a home service, right? If it's a home service, I could literally insert product knowledge, the product itself, the pricing, and the model's the same. The pitch is the same. Yeah. The follow-up's the same. You know what I mean? And then, you know, obviously that serves me in consulting today, but it's more about building the team versus selling the product, you know? Yeah. And so, and what I would always tell them is, 1, you got to believe in your product, and 2, you got to improve the customer's lifestyle. And if you approach it that way, and when you explain it to them, it's an improvement on their lifestyle, then it's going to make so much more sense to them. And you're doing it in such a way that is custom to them, you know? Yeah. And the psychology behind that is essential, because it's not so much about like not screwing them over or anything like that. It's about them getting a great customer experience. Like, the reason that people buy from door-to-door salespeople is because there's a connection. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can click add to cart and order it, and there's no experience there, right? Yeah. But when you have a multi-layered product, you know, like cable or like solar or like all these things, it's very difficult to navigate all that and not make a mistake. That's why you have sales professionals. Yeah. You know, it's not your latest shirt order on Amazon or whatever the case is, you know.
And thank God, you know. Mm-hmm. And the cool thing with solar is it's still one of those things that needs to be sold. It's not really bought very often, you know, because it's not at the front of people's minds. So we're in this beautiful time where, like, it's almost like a little gold rush. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know if there's, you know, maybe mortgages back in the day. Yeah. But I mean,
it's definitely a 30 to 40 year gold rush. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, we need to get on alternative energy. You know, this isn't political. This is like, this needs to happen because the cost of energy is getting too much, you know, and it's affecting all the markets. But if we normalize that cost a little bit, maybe we can slow down inflation, you know. We'll see.
I'm not going to hold my breath on that.
Yeah, exactly.
But it'd be nice.
So when we talk about your organization, obviously that there's segments of it, you know, you're able to kind of take a piece of it and consult it out sometimes, or have another company and step in and be maybe that closing piece, whatever the case is. But you have your core group, right? You have your, what I'm assuming is like 20 or 30 people that is, you know, your ride or die people, you know. Yeah. Within that organization, what do you feel like are difference makers in terms of your culture?
I think one of the biggest things is we treat and train everybody the same. And some people might say that that's bad because, you know, we were talking earlier, joking around, like everybody's not equal, right? Mm-hmm. But I think what helps us is we literally, like, our project managers, you know, the people that push the paper, right? Mm-hmm. They get sales training, like the same level of sales training that our closers get. Okay. Right. And so everybody on our team, literally everybody that works for us has closed a deal, at least one. Okay. I like that. Which I think is a little bit different. You know, our project, you know, and what that does is allows us to be flexible, right? Like, you know, you can get a manager call, you know, somebody's in a house, new rep, they need help. Well, our project managers double as, you know, manager call agents, you know, and so they help new reps close deals. So it allows us, I think what that does for our culture is it allows everybody to get to know each other, right? Because everybody wants to talk about, you know, we're family, and that's great. Yeah. I'm not saying we aren't, you know, it's a little, you know, it can be a little bit played out, but I think what we are is cohesive. Mm-hmm. You know, we definitely, you know, there's people don't always get along perfectly and stuff like that. But the nice thing is everybody's moving to get jobs moving forward, right? And if one of our, admins or project managers sees, oh, this customer had a question for the sales rep, and they see, oh, that sales rep's in a house right now closing a deal, but this is an urgent matter. They're not like, well, I'm going to tell Tom when he gets out of his close. Like, no, they're just going to pick up the phone and they're going to fucking handle it. And so a lot of times the rep doesn't even know that their deal got saved. It doesn't always work out like that. Yeah. But I think doing it like that allows for everybody's got the same goal. They don't have to be best friends. They don't have to call each other brother and sister and hug and kiss and love. Because really at the end of the day, we're all here for, everybody's here to make a good living. Yeah. Right. And so if the goal is, hey, let's help the customer, let's help each other.
What you're saying is so true, because I didn't even realize it. But when I look at my mission statement, my core values, we help each other achieve freedom, and our core values, all those things are serving a purpose. My family is my family. I serve my family. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yes, I serve my employees as a business owner, but I serve my family as a person, Yeah. And I agree with you. A lot of people have family in their mission statement or family in their core values. And it's like, you don't fire your family. You can't fire your family. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So is that family? Like, no, we come to work for a purpose, and we have at our company, we have a purpose. We help each other achieve freedom. And we're all part of that. We're all cohesive, like you said. But then I go home and I serve my son. I serve my daughter. I serve my wife, And I think that's different. I think family needs to stay reserved for that.
I agree.
My son could go out and murder 1,000 people. You know what I'm saying? He's my son. I'll love him no matter what. I'm not going to disown him. I'm going to try and save him. You know what I mean?
But devastated, but you're still going to hug him. Love him.
Exactly.
Somebody works for me, does, I'm the fucker's crazy.
I would never talk to him again. Straight up. That needs to be a reel right there.
It's true. Dude, seriously, and that's true. And it's, I'm not trying to, not hurt people's feelings or hurt people's feelings, but I whenever I see they're like, oh, we're a family, I'm like, get something better. I don't know. Yeah. Dig deeper.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you don't believe that, but based on what? And when you dig a little deeper, maybe that's what your core value is, not just that, because like you said, you don't fire your family.
Yeah. And if you violate our core values, you're getting fired. We have family core values too, but I'm going to spend my life trying to pass those on to my kids, whether they have them and I'm on my dying bed and with my last breath, I'm going to still be trying to pass that on, and they may not take it, you know what I mean? But my employees, we need to represent that, and if you don't, then we're going to part ways, or we're going to find something else for you to do, or we're going to contract you out type deal. We're going to keep our tight knit group where we serve those core values,
kind of compartmentalize, keep them aside. But I think just kind of sum it up. I think that's what, kind of keeps our culture moving forward and keeps the momentum going. And,
it provides context for every piece of the company, that everybody's been through a sale. They understand the heartache of getting postponed. They understand when the I's not dotted on the customer's paperwork, how much that sucks for the sales rep. And now their deal is pushed out another week, and now they can't pay their rent. You know what I mean? They feel it when it happens, so they work their ass off to mitigate it.
Yeah.
So what are some of your, I guess, big ideas for your company's future? Where are you headed, or where is your company headed? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I got some big things in the very early stages that are really exciting. I don't know how much I can talk about without my killing me. I'm really stoked on where we're going. More consulting, and we're gonna make it easier for guys like you and myself and everybody else to tap into the global sales force.
Okay.
And I mean, on a deeper level than just, VAs, like people with, actual sales skills.
Right.
Uh, the world's full of killers,
Niche call centers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And even, beyond that, even selling, internationally, but really selling and not,
You know what I would like? A call center full of English people, because they just sound smart, right?
yeah.
Isn't that
Who's going to hang up on that?
isn't that the American like culture? We just think English people are so smart because of their accent.
You answer the phone, hello, dog. You're like, fuck did I do wrong? Like,
exactly. But when they explain something, or you know what's another one is Australian is another one. For some, just because of the accent, we listen a little more, and they have a little more clout without any reason. You know what I mean?
You answer the phone, you don't know who it is. Like, who's this classy motherfucker?
Yeah. Who's this classy? I wanna listen to him.
I don't know this guy. I don't know anybody that's this classy.
It's not fair. Certain cultures have more distinguished accents. You know what I mean? Or more interesting accents.
Telling people in Mexico how to speak like Brits.
Exactly.
They just get them acting class. That's another big play that nobody's thought of. You can just get a bunch of people in Mexico and the Philippines, get them acting classes, get them talking in Australian and British accent.
Yeah.
Nobody ever hang up.
I don't know if I can air this podcast now. It's too good of an idea. All right, brother. I got one more question. I didn't even realize it's been an hour. Wow. Yeah. Turns out I can too. Might be why I have a podcast. My last question, this is a question that I ask everybody at the end of the podcast. And it's, what does legacy mean to you? And what legacy do you want to leave behind for your family?
I should have fucking prepped for this one, dude. I'm fucking heavy right at the end. What does legacy mean? See, I'm messed up in the head every time I hear legacy, because I've been in solar so long. I think legacy power, and I just hate those.
The word's got a bad connotation now.
Yeah. I hate to be cheesy and say, legacy means leaving the world better than you found it. What does legacy mean to me? I mean, here's the thing. I want to have fun here. I want to have a good time. I want to make some people laugh, help change some lives, help change, some, generational, we've had people that have been, come from backgrounds like, where their families have always been poor. They've always been, so for me, I think legacy is, here's the truth of the matter. Most people don't have one. Right? Most people are going to die. Nobody's ever going to fucking talk about them again.
Yeah.
It just, maybe a couple family members, but once they die off, it's gone.
It'll be, I remember so-and-so, and they'll have a story, and then give it 5-10 years, and that's it. And
nobody ever talks about it. So to me, like, truly a legacy is you leave such a lasting impact, and you have so much fun, and you bring so much, joy to people that it's actually passed down, generations, because, like I said, most people aren't going to have a legacy. And, there's a Hunter S. Thompson quote, and I don't remember exactly what it is, but he talks about when he dies, he doesn't want to be 90 years old and, laying in his casket, like, oh, I'm sure glad I ate that broccoli. He was like, no, I want to go out when I'm 50 in a blaze of fucking glory. You know what I mean? And I'm not to that extreme, but I hope that, for me, my legacy, for a lot of us, it's gonna really end at our kids, maybe our grandkids. So I hope that they look, when my time is up, they look at it and they say, what, I had a fun childhood. I had a good time. I learned a lot, and I'm in a place to, thank God we were put in a position to choose success if we wanted it. Mm-hmm. So beyond that,
you'll be able to pass on those values.
Yeah. I mean, beyond that, be a little hubris beyond, thinking that you're going to have a impact beyond that,
Uh-huh.
but, yeah, I think it's that simple for me. Is just, I want, whatever your beliefs are, if your belief is that, this is our one time on this planet,
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be fun. Like the business is serious, people lives are serious, but like, it's the old, no one gets out alive. Like, let's have a good time, and that's kind of, the legacy, I guess I hope to, don't take, life's too serious to take that serious,
Cody
it's
Booth.
just, yeah, like, it's too serious to take seriously,
Yeah.
So laugh a little more, have some fun, fuck it, go on the vacation you shouldn't go on because you're like, oh shit, as you can tell, I'm not a great, I should never be anybody's financial advisor.
Right here. Same.
Oh,
I actually just hired a fractional CFO because I suck at financials.
yeah.
I can make the money, but managing it and keeping it is another story.
I can make it and I can spend it.
Yeah, exactly. No, actually, so, I'm headed over to your neck of the woods day after tomorrow. And the talk that I'm actually going to have, because I've been pretty obsessed with this subject lately, is on legacy. So the title of the talk is Building an Intentional Legacy. And so it'll be kind of interesting that I just got to ask you that question, and then you're headed over there, and hopefully you get to hear me talk. I'm the second to last speaker, which Philip is the last speaker. So if I leave anybody with anything, it's to ask that question, like, what kind of legacy do I want to leave behind, and then give them the tools to identify it and then build it intentionally every day, And so it sounds like fun is going to be a huge part of the one you leave behind for your kids, and they're gonna remember that. When I think about a lot of people that have a lasting legacy, and by lasting I mean like 2-3 generations, which is what we can all hope for.
Yeah.
They talk about their grandparent as like the life of the party. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they did what they said they were going to do in terms of having fun, and they brought everybody together and kept the party going,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So,
I mean, it's what people remember. I got one question. Can I ask a question?
sure. Absolutely.
If money's not an issue, right? What's your, you've made your money, you've built your legacy. What's your passion project? It can be work related.
Mm-hmm.
It can be anything.
So my passion is helping people build their businesses, and then my passion would be working on my land. So I don't have the land I want yet, but the land I do have, I'm beautifying it. I'm building stuff out on it, and so I am very much on the freaking what is that show called? Yellowstone train. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, sure.
I want that someday. I want a multi-generational piece of land that gets passed down from generation to generation. And I want to be the one to purchase that and set it up for everybody.
Cattle, horses, everything.
If I'm good at it, right, I won't keep doing it if I suck at it, right? So, hopefully maybe my son could do that someday, or my grandson could. Because I'm not a country boy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I wasn't taught that from a young age. So I'm going to have to learn it being 40 years old. You know what I'm saying? I'm 36 now, but by the time I have the land that I want to have, I'm going to have to learn that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's different when you don't get taught it from a young age. But then I can teach it to my sons, and then hopefully it'll be ingrained in them for their sons, and daughters, and so on and so forth. So that's definitely a piece of it. Like, if money didn't matter, I'd immediately go out and buy the property that I wanted and start cultivating it and building on it. And then for fun, I would go help people build their businesses up.
Yeah.
So,
Cool. What you love.
and because people have asked me that question before, or I have asked myself that question, I'm doing what I love, and then unfortunately everybody can't say that, but they can work towards it, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of why I always ask that question, because a lot of that comes out in that question, in that answer. And you'll see a lot of people will talk about what they're passionate about, and every now and then it won't be what they're doing. That's just a means to an end, so that they can do that thing. And for you, it's going to be touring on a Jerry Garcia tribute band.
Dude. Honestly, if money wasn't an issue, I would open up a music venue, and I would. There's layers to it, but I would basically book whoever the fuck I wanted, and wouldn't care if it cost money, and it would, that's what it would be. It'd be, almost like, people would be allowed to come and buy tickets, but like it'd be almost my own. It would just be curated by me, and I would just book whoever I wanted.
Yeah, have your own little shows and stuff, and show of one, audience of one.
Yeah, I like getting everybody together, so that would be fun. To have a real full venue. But here's the thing: not everything may come as a surprise, but not everything that I love is super profitable in every market. Like if I booked, the members of the Grateful Dead somehow to come play in Simpsonville, it probably wouldn't crush out financially.
I don't know. I mean, they're a big enough band that they got fans everywhere. It's like the Cowboys, So. Travel,
yeah. But there's some obscure music that I like, where it'd be like I'd have to fly people in, from around the world, and like it would I'd lose my ass on it. But
yeah, definitely.
Everybody could buy it. Not many people would.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely love getting people together and feeding them. Barbecue is another passion of mine, but it's like a minor passion on top of having the property and building it out, and then having plenty of room for people to stay and barbecue and have a good time and stuff. That's kind of like 60s and on. I want to be able to enjoy that.
Yeah.
And so, all right, brother. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us. I appreciate you coming on the call, walking us through that story, being a little vulnerable in the beginning. I may have kind of sprung that on you that, hey, we're starting now, because you just gave a great intro for me. You know what I mean?
Good.
It is a beautiful story, and I would definitely encourage you to kind of be transparent with that. You know what I'm saying? Because that is going to inspire a lot of people. Some people are in that shit you were in, 8 years ago, or was it 8 years?
Well, it's been on and off for almost 20, but it's been over 6 now. That
6 sober. So some people are in that, right? My VP of sales. We're going to get into a whole nother podcast now, but my VP of sales is sober 19 or 20 years now. And so and it's kind of crazy. Guys like you that have been through that appreciate what you're doing now so much more. And then you guys are great mentors, what I'm saying? Because you've done the worst of the worst a lot of times, and I have too, just with a different drug, Yeah. So
it's one of those things where it's like, what can you do to me?
Yeah.
That's why I look at business. It's like, what can you do to me that I haven't,
already done to myself, for one.
You take away money. Like, okay.
Yeah. 100%. Well, brother, I appreciate you coming on. If people want to get a hold of you, if they want to learn more about the solar business or consulting, any of that stuff, where do they reach out to you? What's the best place?
I'm on LinkedIn. Not super active on LinkedIn. I'm getting a little bit better. And then Instagram, honestly, it's at Cody_Booth _315. And that's the best place to get a hold of me. Facebook's fine too. I just tend to check Instagram more than Facebook.
Gotcha.
Hopefully I'll do it again some other time with you, and I'll have a little bit better website and stuff like that.
Yeah, talk to Bennett. He'll get you all set up, man. I think my podcast was like his first or second one, so he was just getting all that set up. But we'll put the links in the show notes, so if anybody's interested, they can tag you on there.
Cool.
All right, brother. Let's get building.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Building Great Sales Teams. We appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and leave a review wherever you consume podcasts, and subscribe so you're notified when we release new content. Great sales teams aren't recruited. They are built brick by brick. Let's get building.